All right, this is Carlos Santos, and I am going to be discussing our very last lab, which is going to be lab 6, biophilic design. So, if for some reason you missed class on Tuesday the 14th, then hopefully this is going to kind of give you a little bit of background on the assignment and what the expectations are and next steps moving forward. So, everyone should look at this video. You should watch this video completely. Just make sure that you understand the concept, that you understand the assignment description and the deliverables. Very, very important things that I wanted to get out of the way before we get into the lab itself and in the instructions. I wanted to let you know about some more housekeeping rules. Let's see. So we introduced this lab yesterday. We presented lab 5. We introduced barely this lab yesterday on the 14th, and then next Tuesday, the November 23rd, 21st, excuse me, we're going to be on our break for Thanksgiving. So we're not going to meet. And therefore, this is going to take place on your own. So just make sure that you take on these 2 weeks to prepare, because we're going to meet for the very last time on the 28th of November. And you're going to not only submit this very last lab, you're also going to be presenting it. So we really have a time constraint in our hands right now. So just work on it before your break, or just assess and discuss what's best for you. But essentially, I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're not going to meet next week. So let's just jump in back to biophilic design. What is biophilic design? What the heck is that? So biophilic design is an innovative approach. It's a framework. It's a philosophy to architecture, to urban design, and it's now being implemented in cities overall. And it pretty much it seeks to incorporate elements of nature and its natural environment into the built environment. And you're gonna hear a lot of planners and engineers and architectures are going to talk about the built environment, and that's essentially everything that humans make around our cities and urban areas, so that kind of disrupt the natural state of our ecosystems, right? So or built environment. So we're gonna talk a little bit about this. Essentially, we're gonna move towards this lab with the same approach, using the economic, environmental, and social impacts, but from a biophilic design lenses. So the term biophilia was popularized by a biologist called E.O. Wilson, who proposed that humans have an innate connection to nature, and that same connection is essential for our own well-being. And how many of you feel that when you are outside, either you're going on a trail in the cottonwoods, or maybe you go to Moab, or you go to Zion, whatever the case might be, just go, spend some time in nature. Don't you feel that sense of relief and connection, and just overall you feel relaxed and grounded? And I think that's something that this biologist, E.O. Wilson, kind of was inspired from, this idea that we have become kind of like desensitized and detached from nature. We kind of like look at nature, right, with the scientific method, and decided to observe nature instead of being part of it. So this is the overall idea. So biophilic design aims to create spaces that foster a sense of connection to the natural world, enhancing the well-being and promoting productivity. And this has to do with the economic factor of it that we're going to jump in a second. The design is a philosophy, so to speak, that incorporates various elements, patterns, materials, nodes that are inspired by nature. And some of these features are the natural light, right? The ventilation, the indoor plants are kind of like bridging, the inside with the outside. So natural materials, perhaps just like having a certain type of materials in your construction that just makes you feel that you're outside, so to speak, or the outside world is inside. The views of nature, so how the architecture enhances the views, and it can be like the windows overlooking green spaces or water features. Also, the other one will be like water features, including elements like fountains and indoor water features like that. And then, of course, there's shapes of natures and patterns that you can incorporate, um, or let's see, or even like the colors, right? That can be another element. So just overall, just natural light ventilation, plants, green infrastructure, natural materials, the views, the overall feeling of that space. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an introduction to the term. So why do we care about biophilic design? So again, the social. What do we know about the social? Well, it provides, physical and mental health, right? It kind of like enhances that. Just there's a lot of studies that have proven that, you feel that when you're in a space that is light up, you tend to be more focused, that, when you have access to nature, that somewhat is associated to better outcomes in mental health and whatnot. Um, Also, like the social connection, it's also very true. There's been a lot of research done on that area that kind of like explores how people kind of like interact more when there's like some of these elements of nature within the built environment. And then the bond with nature, then you get to again ground yourself, be more present. So that's one of the social things that you're going to see with biophilic design. And of course, you have give me just a second. Of course, you have the economic growth, right? So, what do we mean about that? So, there is a lot of studies that have been done just looking at how significant the economic growth is when there's biophilic design present. It also doesn't only increase productivity and the well-being of the employers that implement these type of initiatives. Let's say like instead of having a cubicle floor where you're going to be an accountant, you have a more natural environment where you feel more inspired, where you feel like you're not trapped, where you can breathe and see better. I don't know, but there's been a lot of studies done on that, on like the increased productivity and the well-being, and that ultimately has an economic impact in the business or whatever the firm that you're working at. And then it also has improved, reducing healthcare cost, enhancing property values. Again, architecturally speaking, it's just very much a not only a trend, but it's also very much like a very well thought, holistic approach to architecture. So it increased property values just by the fact that you have those in your neighborhood. And then of course it's super energy efficient and cost saving because they use solar panels, or they reuse the water or for the lawn, whatever it is. They have so many ways that they kind of like make it more efficient and cost effective when it comes to like energy savings. um and that's just like some of the things that we can talk about, the economic, and you might explore some other areas. And then we have the environmental aspects of the biophilic design, which is habitat restoration. Some of these green infrastructure that are within these designs help for restoring a habitats. Let's say that even like helps us a bee pollinator, for example, so the bees can help us out pollinating, mitigating air and water pollution. That's so interesting because we know by research that it actually cleans the air, right? The whole photosynthesis and carbon sequestration helps clean the air. And the same with mitigating urban heat islands effect. And if you don't know about urban heat island, essentially it's just like how the urban cores are very much in susceptible to like heat. So because of the concrete and how the sun radiates on the built environment, it sometimes is retained, and therefore the cities are even more warmer than all the areas that are not as urban. So the heat island effect, then you can mitigate with the biophilic design uh, some of these urban heat islands, and then overall heat waves, for example, or heat cramps, there's something going on here near my house, so I apologize if you can hear people here in downtown. So yeah, it can mitigate cooling effects overall. And then of course environmental stewardship, right? That we're taking on the environment and just enhancing our natural and ecologic environment. Let's see, make a video showcasing a biophilic design. So essentially this is the assignment description. You have 3 minutes to talk about two different examples of biophilic design, and this has to be in the Wasatch Front. So what examples can you do? Well, there's many examples. One of them can be City Creek. City Creek is a very interesting biophilic design. It's owned by the LDS Church. It incorporates some of the ventilation and lighting that we've been talking about as one of the elements of biophilic design. The roof actually opens up whenever it's not cold outside and whenever it's not raining, but the roof closes down when there's raining on where there or when there's like when temperatures are below 60, whatever. So it really interesting how a roof kind of like comes up and down. So if you haven't seen it, I recommend you go to City Creek and look at the roof. And it also has some creeks, some fountains, excuse me, that resembles the creeks. And a lot of other elements on biophilic design. It has green infrastructure inside the shopping center, and other things that you can explore. But essentially, I'm giving you a lot of the work already. So City Creek is one of them. The other one can be the Utah Museum, the University of Utah Museum. I forget the whole name, but essentially it's right there in campus. And that one, it goes for a little bit more on the views and the panoramic views, and also the materials of it, because you cannot see the museum. If you look at it from the outside, it's kind of embedded within the hill. So very interesting adaptation of the biophilic design within the hill, and the type of stone that they used to build it. And then of course the magnificent views. If you haven't been to the Utah Museum, highly recommend. That's a classical example of biophilic design. And then I'll give you a third one just for the sake of saving you some time. Will be the Salt Lake City Library here in 400 South. That one is also really interesting. A lot of green infrastructure inside and outside, super inspired by nature, and it has water fountains too, and many other things that you guys are gonna explore. So just tell me about two examples. I give you three, but honestly, you can reuse one of mine or just explore others in the Wasatch Front. Believe it or not, there's many here in Utah. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so going back to the script, explain how each have a biophilic component. So you have to really seek and articulate those elements, right? If there's nature, ventilation, whether it's lighting, whether it's materials of construction, whether it is air energy efficiency. So really, like, tell me about the components. There's data out there. Tell me a little bit of the statistical background of these elements and how efficient it is, or how it's going to impact the community or the clients or whatever, the homeowner. So just really dive into, like, explain all of these components, and then discuss the social, environmental, and economic implications. So at the very end, you have 45 seconds or so to really, like, dive in and talk about the social, environmental, and economic implications of this biophilic design of your choosing. And each example should be at least 1 minute of the video. So you have 2 minutes, right? So 1 minute will be for one example. The other minute will be for the other example. And then you have, let's say, 50 minutes or 45 minutes, again, to kind of like bind everything together and talk about the social, environmental, and economic implications. And then again, some of the feedback I gave to some of you, be very aware of the music, that is not too loud, that you have, music, and essentially some of you suggested to have different type of music for, different type of examples. And I highly recommend to do that too. Work on your transitions, work on having some screen text, and then graphics. There's great videos out there, there's great photos out there. So really give me something that is worth watching, that you're feeling proud of, showing this specific work that you're going to deliver. Especially include some graphics that show these biophilic elements that connects with the environmental, economic, and social system. So how does lighting, help improving, production or productivity, or how does lighting help well-being, or how does lighting helps, with some of the just really dive into these things. Suggest ways in which biophilic design elements could be scaled up and integrated into other parts of the region. So give me a little bit of this. Just tell me what are the opportunity, what are the gaps, what are the opportunity areas that we can take on as designers, as architecture majors, or as political science majors, whatever your major is, and how can we scale it up? How can we make it more of a thing around the whole Wasatch Front? More people should be aware of this, right? Let's see. And then, of course, you have the rubric, as always. So in this case, you are not gonna bring a in progress video to class. So essentially, you're gonna get 2 points for the delivery of the final version. I am, however, very much happy to look at any of your drafts, before November 20th. Um, and I can definitely provide you some individual feedback. You guys know that I'm here as a facilitator and to help you out. But essentially, it's the same concept. Just be very aware about the design, the aesthetics of the video, that you have clear images, that your voice is crisp, that you're articulating, that you're not mumbling, that you're very, you're projecting. That's a big one. And of course, that you have all the frameworks that we discuss, and all the information that is expected. Let's see. We ignore that because we are in a different calendar. So I'm going to show you a little video. Um, this will be everything from my end. So I hope that this clarifies anything. The Canvas page does have almost anything you need. It does goes into detail of, the expectations, and then you have some really good examples in here. I wanted to take this opportunity to also show you a great video. It's 10 minutes long, so I would send it through Canvas. Please watch it. It's essentially in Singapore. It's about biophilic architecture. It's absolutely remarkable to see how the city, in the state, it's working around nature and with nature for nature. Is incredible. It's super inspiring, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So please go ahead and watch that. And then I'm gonna leave you with this Singapore example. So this one is only 5 minutes worth of your time. So just watch this one as well. And with that, I'm just gonna say, have a great time off around family and friends for this Thanksgiving break. And I'll see you all on November 28th. I'm just gonna play this video for you all. And again, work on something that you feel pride. Yeah, I'll see you guys then. Take care.
Idea of biophilic design is how to make that design in such a way that we embrace nature. We try to bring nature into the city. A biophilic building attempts to replace walls and windows and columns and signs and neon with leaves and bark and birds and insects. there are benefits of connectivity with nature, because I think it's a combined effect of psychological health as well as the physiological health, where the fresh air as well as natural lighting, because that helps body generate vitamin D. User also found that in Khoo Hospital, they experienced greater sense of calm and lower stress levels. And these patients also took fewer strong doses of painkillers.
What we've been interested in is, can we achieve this in a high density city? So can we make 100% replacement of the green area of the city? Or can we even exceed it? The most we've achieved is on the Oasia Downtown Hotel, where we have 1,100% of green plot ratio. So this means we have 11 times the amount of nature in the building than we would if we had no building at all. We just had the empty site as a garden. Even with just 10% of new buildings having 1,000% of nature, we can quite rapidly retrofit a city to have the equivalent of 100% green cover of the city. As humans, we evolved in nature, surrounded by the natural world. So living in cities is something quite unnatural for us. It seems to be causing a series of psychological and physiological problems. We're actually surrounded by a lot of things that have too much cultural loading on them. Everything that your eye rests on is created by humans. There's a very much a geometry that surrounds us that's quite harsh. But when you look at a tree, you can just relax, like your eye can rest on it and you can say, that's a beautiful form that no one had anything to do with. And it's a way, I think, of being able to turn our mind off all those human aspects and just relax.
So biophilic architecture does foster urban ecology by creating opportunities for a richer, diverse ecosystem.
Park Royal on Pickering Hotel has been full from the day it opened. So many people see it as a place they would like to experience and stay in. So the gardens have actually become the biggest factor in driving guests into the hotel. And I have to say, it is a wonderful thing to see someone walking down the street, their eyes drift onto the building, they stop dead, they might tap their companion on the shoulder, and then they point at the building. And the very first reaction they have is they move towards the building and they just want to go into it. And as an architect, there's nothing more rewarding than that.
I think the success of Garden by the Bay is successful in many layers. First of all, it created a space for citizens to share and to enjoy. At the same time, it's like an urban living room, right? When the visitors come to your city, that is the first place they visit, and then they learn about your city. Biophilic architecture is the first step towards a longer term solution.
I think the more green our cities get, in fact, it will start snowballing and the more people will demand it.